Basketball Jones, I got a basketball Jones, I got a basketball Jones, ooh baby, ooh.
Kane is in the building.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
What time is it? Sloan in the corner for the win!
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Now Myers to win the league, yes!
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Stand and
Who else really trying to fuck with Hollywood Cole?
Well, hello and welcome to the Below the Rim show, a show dedicated to the BBL. Of course, it's me, Pabz. I'm joined as always by my main man, Ads. How are you, sir?
Okay, apart from some idiot hacking our Twitter page and saying that LeBron James is the GOAT when he isn't, and in fact Michael Air Jordan is the GOAT.
We're also joined by our most northern correspondent. It is, of course, the brave-hearted Mr. Grant Young. How are you, sir? It is, isn't it? It's
right, brilliant. The sun is shining. You can see it on my face, actually. You can see that. Look at that. I've got a tan. I'm a little bit less grey, so, no, absolutely brilliant. And nice to speak to you guys again. Been a few weeks.
And we're joined, of course, by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Josh Bear. He's on time. He's not gate crashing at the final hour. How are you, mate?
I'm not in the airport in Croatia, and again, I must say, that idiot sounds like a very intelligent idiot for him to say that LeBron James is the greatest player of all time, Adam.
You're a moron.
Yeah, just like that idiot.
All right. Well, we are going
to
have some debate tonight. It's not going to be about that.
Wow.
But we're going to retrospectively.
You're an idiot.
That's all right. We're going to retrospectively have a look back at the BBL Awards. Not our ones. I'm happy with our ones, I think. We're going to look back through the BBL Awards and see if there's anything we maybe disagree with along those lines. We'll take a look as well at any reservations we've got. Well, not necessarily reservations, but where the league's going and how we think the next season, next 5 seasons, however you want to look at it, are going to kind of pan out. So strap in for this one. I'm hoping it won't go for as long because Josh is here, so there's no chance of him joining with what we think's 5 minutes to go and then turns out as another hour. So yeah, good. Let's kick things off. Let's can you first of all, I've got them listed here, but can you guys remember who got what award? We'll start with the teams. No, shrugs, lots of shrugs, no idea. Okay, team of the season then. Let's start with that one. It's a big one, the biggest one. Taj Green was the centre, VJ King forward, Dekker forward, Dirk Williams at 2 guard. They're very specific on that, to be fair, so that maybe restricts some of their selections. And Sloan was the starting guard. I got to admit, I'm okay with most of that. What about you fellas? Grant, my man.
I'm okay with it, except, and this might upset ads. I was like, how can you not have Larry Austin in ahead of Dirk Williams? But if Dirk, like, why are they shoehorning Dirk in it too? That's my only kind of take on it. I'm okay with BJ, Dekker, Taj, and Sloan, of course. But that'd be my one. Like, I'm like, how keep Larry Austin near the top in assists, one of the best scorers, taking his team to a higher place finish than Manchester, and a team that equally probably not as good in quality, Cheshire, but in the same kind of depth as well. So that's my take. I would have had Larry Austin.
Man. I mean, I've got a riposte to that, which Grant's not going to like, but add to my man. Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's back.
Well,
gone.
No, I'm not. I'm here. Yeah, the Dirk thing, I mean, I've listened to a few arguments. I've actually spoke to Dirk about it as well.
Didn't you say he turned his Twitter off?
The Giants party. And,
or he stayed off Twitter for a long while.
I don't know about that, but he might have done. Yeah, I think to be fair to him, you know, who wants to see people arguing, going, "Oh, he shouldn't have been on it," and you know, you never want to, you know, as an athlete, you know, especially one as good as Dirk, you don't really want to be reading that kind of stuff. And I just said, I don't believe the hype, you know how it is on there. It's a wild, wild west, isn't it? But you know, Dirk, had a great season, individually, no doubt. He was fabulous all year. I can see where people might have gone, because the Giants finished where they finished. Maybe they shouldn't have had 2 players in there. I get that. But on the whole, I was kind of all right with the 5, to be honest. I mean, I felt like Dekker didn't really need to do anything other than appear.
I've got to be honest, and I have to say this to you as well, specifically. I think Mark Lovin should have been picked instead of Dekker. Dekker's just he's not played enough games. They won plenty of games without him. They didn't need him to win the league. The value aspect of it is quite big.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't just Mark Lovin. There was, Zach Jackson.
He did,
had
absolutely.
A great year.
But you'd have to drop VJ King for Zach Jackson. And I think VJ's obviously had a good year as well.
Yeah. So, it was one of those where, and I'm sure that people will have something to say about what I've just said there about Dekker, but I agree with you. He didn't play enough games, and basically, I don't want to say it's a cop-out putting him in it, because he was always going to be in it. But, all he had to do was basically turn up on a roster, play a couple of games, and he was going to be on the list. We knew this at the start of the year. It felt, it's like, if you're going to now sit down and say, predict before the season starts who will be in Team of the Year, you're going, well, Sam Dekker. You wouldn't have known anything about Taj Green, so you couldn't have said Taj Green. You might have had a gamble and said Dirk Williams, Ramon Fletcher. You know what I mean? But it just felt like...
Go on, Josh.
Obviously.
Twofolds here. First of all, the fact that the pair of you, and again, I love both of you. You two are my good friends. But when I listen to what you have to say about Sam Dekker, it's the same as when I used to listen to my father when I was 16 years old, when he would say to me Liverpool was going to win the league. It's absolute rubbish what the pair of you are saying. I get it. You guys have strong opinions. No, hold on. You got to let me finish, because I kept quiet the whole time. Hold on, sorry. So just give me about 120 seconds on this one. First of all, to say that Sam Dekker didn't belong to be in Team of the Year because he didn't play enough games. Well, he played 22 games. He played over 50% of the BBL games. Whoa, hold on. Point is this. He played 22 games. I don't know what the requirement is of how many games you can play, but he played 22 games, over 50%. Number
21
two,
games.
He is a very, very good player.
Sorry,
you cannot deny that. His resume speaks for itself. Whatever. Okay, well, point is, it's on the mark. Second of all, Adam, you've just made a great point that you thought would go in your favor, but actually it's gone in the favor of the BBL. You basically just said, because he's Sam Dekker and he turns up, he was already going to get that position. Well, what does that tell you? Bringing a big name to the BBL was good for the league, but that's not the honest truth. That's not why Sam Dekker got into the BBL All 5. He got in there because he is the best player in the league at only his position,
based on
but also the overall
that?
Best player in the league. Based on the fact that he is a great scorer. He is also a very good rebounder. He's a very good defender. He can play multiple positions. Also, we can talk about resumes. Played a very high level of university basketball. Drafted in the first round of the NBA. Was a rotation player for the Houston Rockets. And played a very high level of European basketball for Turk Telekom. And it was a champion for the team, I forget the name, Bachelor Collegiate FIBA.
Before you come and Grant, if you have to explain what he's done in the past, because you can't really talk about what he's done this season in the BBL, that's one of the problems. He hasn't...
What do you mean, what has he done this season? What do you mean? What has he not done this season?
He had a good final.
What has he not done?
Come on, Grant.
He hasn't had to... No, you
but if I quantify and start talking about stats, you're going to tell me to shut up. Stats don't matter, but he is fucking way down the list, mate.
What was his highest score this year? What was his highest points? You say he's a great scorer. What was his highest points in a game this year?
So he had 20 points, I believe, against the Giants away, right?
So
he needs a great scorer.
There's like 15 players who broke 30.
Yeah, but
do you not realise there's one basketball and
don't talk about the scoring thing and then start saying he shares the ball very well. Grant, come on, what are you going to say? You had your hand up.
That makes no sense what you guys said. No sense. No. Okay.
I think I said this throughout the season. Like, Dekker was the best player who destroyed my team. Every time I watched Dekker play against the Gladiators. That first game, we were up the whole game. Dekker put the ball in the sport, and I've not looked at stats to back this up before I'm coming on and talking to you guys. But Dekker, in that third or second half against the Gladiators, earlier in the season, very early in the season, is the only time I have seen a guy this whole season single-handedly beat a team.
Finally, someone's
he single-handedly dragged that Lions team that had Kostas Koufos. Kostas was still playing. I missed that, so I'll keep talking. And he single-handedly won Lions that game. Single-handedly, he did everything. He rebounded, he scored, he set people up, he did whatever he needed to win that game. Nobody else this season, with the eye test, I've seen do that. To me, without even thinking of I watched London quite a lot in Europe. He played games for London and Europe when he was clearly lucky if he was 50%. The guy's then gone on and gone surgery to make sure he's okay. He played 20, 21, 22 games, whatever it may be. He came back to try and play in the start of the playoffs, and then when he got surgery, it was that bad. He's not here just to kind of glance over it. It's good for him. He's earning money, whatever. Like, that guy, you don't come back if you've got a serious injury to try and play on it. Like, honestly, he was the best player I've seen this season.
I'll be a bit harsh to that country mile, especially when you said on the awards show that there were 3 guys up there for that award, and there wasn't a lot between them in terms of VJ.
Well, VJ was definitely number 2, and I put Larry Austin at number 3. That's how I'm putting him in. Larry Austin in my team of the year behind.
The only problem with the team of the year thing is they've been quite stringent on 1 guard and 2 guard. So if you're going to put Larry Austin in, he's got to go in ahead of Sloan. His numbers are better than Sloan. Granted, he didn't have the winning basket in a final, but he was phenomenal.
But like, if you were to go through even like how the league voted for MVP,
yeah, let's do that because that matters.
If you gave it points like the NBA does, Dekker was number 1, King was number 2, Taj Green was number 3, David Sloan was voted 4th in the MVP race in this league. Number 5 was Zach Jackson, number 6 was Mark Living.
So Dekker plays for Surrey Scorchers last year. Is he still the greatest player in the league?
So William Lee plays for Surrey Scorchers. Is he better than Sam Dekker in your opinion? What has that got to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? How is that relevant?
It's relevant because if you're talking about a team of the year, and this guy's as good as you say he is he that good that he can turn around?
This is the whole point with a valuable issue.
Around.
Yeah,
he's coming with it.
Hasn't turned a franchise around. You mean a franchise that struggled to win silverware last year and then only won, what was it, the BBL Cup against the Plymouth, what are they called? The team that existed before the Plymouth City Patriots. Sorry, yeah. No.
So it's nothing to do with the rest. It's nothing to do with the rest of the players.
They haven't needed him for most of the season.
So he's the best player in the best team. Does that not make him the MVP? Does that not quantify the fact that he should be in the top 5 of the team of the year?
Here's my issue with it.
He's the best player in the best team. Player,
and he's had...
Go on.
I was trying to find it. I worked it out previously. He's had like 14 or 15 games, which the numbers and the eye test and all that, he's very good and essentially the best player in the league. But my point is that's not enough. And my issue is it invalidates everybody else in the league. The guys that are playing 35 games a season, the guys that actually are more valuable on their team than Dekker is on his, simply because of the fact that roster, and we'll talk about the finances later on, but that roster without Dekker wins. They don't necessarily need him per se. My issue is the validation of this
that's
league.
A very good point.
We as classed as journalists need to be looking at this I need to validate it ourselves. And I got pissed off when Grant to a degree, but Nicholson more so. Oh, what's the criteria? I picked Dekker as my MVP. We don't know what the criteria is. Well, you're the fucking journalist. You should know what the criteria is. The criteria is to be valuable on your team for at least 2/3, if not 3/4 of the season. At least. Because otherwise there's no value. If you're still coming top and you've played half the season, you've no value. There's not a lot of value in that specifically. But I just think what Ad said, turning up and playing, I know it was an exaggeration, playing a few games and getting on that on that list. He played very good games. He had a number of very good games. He had a number of very poor games. No one sort of drew issue with that. We know his stock. We know where he's come from. We know what he's capable of. But my thing has always been, if you don't do it on the floor in a BBL, for what I perceive to be enough time as a basketball journalist, as somebody who listens to Bill Simmons' show, someone listens to I forget, all the guys on the Ringer basically, and even the No Dunks guys. There's a whole criteria of stuff that validates your league, and our league is shit on time after time. And to a degree, I feel like outside elements have come into the league and shit on it a little bit as well, in terms of, who cares about this league and what element of people. I care about this league, and I care about the players in it, and I care about someone like Mark Lovin, who's had 27 good games, as opposed to somebody like Sam Dekker, who's come in, taken all the limelight, and only had maybe 14, 15 good games when you look at the numbers and when you look at what he's done and taken over games. That's my issue. It devalidates our league, and it makes our league look
I got to counter that.
Worse.
No, it doesn't. I'm going to counter what you just said, because you've made a very, very valuable point there. And I can understand where you're coming from. Pablo, when it comes to people in this country who know the British Basketball League, there's nobody in your league. Nobody knows the league better than a Pablo Cheeks. Nobody knows the league better than a Dan Routledge. You are BBL through and through. That is one of the things I've always respected about you. That's another reason why we're very good friends. However, to continue to make the comparison, Mark Lovin's games over Sam Dekker's games. Sam Dekker's played games beyond the BBL. And you're talking about coming to this league and not showing respect to it. Well, they're trying to put a team like the London Lions in the Euro Cup to be successful at a continental stage. What do you think that does with that success? Yes, this year was about legitimacy. They went in there, but it's the first time we've had a team in Europe that's actually competed since, I think, your days, Pablo, the Brighton Bears. Guildford Heat, they tried the Euro Cup. Epic failure. Leicester Riders, they tried BCL twice. Didn't work. They went to the Euro Cup. Winners. So London Lions have given a little... Whoa, yeah. No, but I'm saying last time. Last time was Brighton Bears. The point is this, though. What I'm trying to make is Sam Dekker's played 21, 22 games, whatever it is, plus an abundance of Euro Cup games each week. So he has almost played the same amount of games in total, if you compare those Euro Cup games to a Mark Levin, to a Zach Jackson. But to assume that they're coming to the BBL, games in Europe. Thank you. They're coming to the BBL. They're not putting the same effort as they are. No, they are trying to put the BBL on the map. Okay, and you said it there, Pablo. Watching the few games that he played, yes, you probably would see why he's an MVP. And in your defense, you said, but he hasn't played enough BBL games. But again, if you watch a lot of European basketball, whatever leagues it is, and the teams in those different leagues in Europe that compete these continental tournaments, it's the same thing. Players have to adjust to injuries. Players have to adjust to playing some games, so they will miss a few games.
But the award is... Okay.
Yeah, but that's the same in every league. That's the
BBL award.
Same
the award's not BBL and European Competition Award. If you prioritise Europe, you can't then expect to win the award in the BBL. And you shouldn't, because you've prioritised Europe. Done very well in Europe. Fantastic. He made was it second team? Second five, was it? Yeah. So, I mean...
It was top scorer too.
That's fantastic. And you'll get the European accolades. No problem. But you prioritise that. And I understand why they prioritise that, because they want to do better in that competition. And because, with all fairness, for exactly what I said earlier, they don't necessarily need him to win league games in the BBL, because he's not that valuable to them in that terms. He's more valuable to them in European terms. But this isn't a European award. It's a BBL award.
Yeah, but you're confused because the thing is, saying that he isn't valuable in the BBL, as Grant just said, as Grant just said, he was valuable in that game against Glasgow. The games, I've been there every game at home and I've commentated every game. Sam Dekker's presence, if he wasn't there on most nights, they would have lost. So he is important. But the fact is, no, most nights is true. Trust
I'm not having most nights. I have some nights. I'm not having most nights.
Okay, that's how valuable he is. Yeah, well, I was there. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with. Okay? He's that good of a player.
Well, that team was deep as fuck.
Important part of that team.
It was a different player, though. Different player. Sam Dekker was the go-to player. Sharma was a phenomenal five-man who was great for his intangibles. You weren't basing every offense around Josh Sharma. Josh Sharma was a key element, a cog in the machine to their offense, which made them a great team. But again, the fact that they were winning in the BBL and he was the best player, yeah, they reserved him, but he was the best player on the best team.
On a very deep team that didn't need him.
The other day, I thought that if there was an award for one of the most underrated players in the league, for me it's
Zubic was very good.
He
won the game in Plymouth.
You did not just call him. You did not just call him. We've got 5 minutes, but you did not just call him Zubic, did you?
I called him Zubic.
Well, they called him Zuba on the podcast.
I thought he was incredible.
Zuba, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was incredible. In the times I saw him up close in Manchester, he's a game changer because while Dekker's doing whatever he's doing, this guy. He was a monster, I thought. Massively underrated and undermentioned on that London team.
Right, but what's that got to do with the debate?
The value. It's the whole
Sam
value
Dekker
thing.
not being
That's
worthy
basically what it is.
What are you trying to say?
Nothing. But I'm just saying that he was, in my opinion, as valuable as the other two guys we've mentioned.
Yeah, but Zuba was more a role player off those guys. Like I said, you've got the dominant. He was.
Stuff. He created a lot of his own stuff. He was a nuisance on.
So how did he create his own stuff? He was a great pick and pop 3-point shooter from the perimeter as a 4-man, but then occasionally played as a 5-man. But the idea is the ball was strictly in the hands of their point guards, whether that was Jordan Taylor, Luke Nelson as the main pick and roll option. But the go-to scoring option for them was Sam Dekker. Sam Dekker was the guy that usually created for himself, whereas Zuba was probably the best power forward / center in the league if you want to put in comparison with Taj Green, but a role player in a very good team. That's how Zuba's been his whole career.
And I think it was clear as well with someone like Zuba, who I think he struggled when Sharma wasn't there. He struggled when Dekker wasn't next to him. When London went through their injuries and he was having to play a lot at the 5 for most of the game, I thought he struggled quite a lot because that wasn't his role in the team. It's not exactly. He's not. He was playing well.
He won the game at Plymouth.
Blanket.
And you're Adam. You're right. Yeah, he's a great player, Zuba.
Yeah,
but Zuba in all the teams he's played, especially this London team, as Grant just made a great point. He's great when he plays off players that usually have the ball in their hands a lot more. So especially when Cooper's left and they had to sometimes play him at the 5, he was phenomenal at just being a ball screener. And a lot of times, he would like to get the ball in the post, but he is really much a pick and pop 5 stretch 4. That's how great he is. But to insinuate he was the best player on that team ahead of certain players like Dekker, that's...
I was just highlighting that his value, in my opinion, was as important as Sharma and Dekker's.
And he played more games.
Yeah, but Go on, Grant.
No, I was just saying we've got 3 minutes. No, I genuinely think like Zuba, quality player, but he's miles down that line.
But he wasn't on a number of nights.
Value, in my
opinion.
He
was number 1 guy on a number of nights. And they had different guys step up on different nights to do that job.
Teams,
because they didn't necessarily need to play Dekker because they had all the other talent.
But you go through most teams in the league and they have guys. You go Manchester, they had Ramon, Dirk.
But they're playing like 35 minutes a game for 35 games.
Okay, we'll go Gladiators where their guys are barely touching 30. You had Jeremiah Bailey could go off. You had David Sloan. You had Al Durham, Farrell Hodgett. Those guys weren't playing.
How many games did they play?
More than 30 minutes.
I'm trying to open it now.
You tell me. You've got that open.
It's not playing ball. So Bailey,
I know Al Durham and Farrell Hodgett played
36 games. Played every game. 26.9. But you'd admit as much as anyone else that Bailey, as a rookie, had some games where he just switched off and he was unplayable. Yeah. So as a rookie as well, there's situations like that. But before we'll take a quick break. Before we move on, I know what Ad's answer is going to be, but Taj Green, considering where he came from, is he the pickup of the season? Like, is he the revelation of this season? That's an insane.
Certainly one of them. No doubt.
He's the number 1 ranked centre in the league, basically. When you look at efficiency and his raw stats, phenomenal. It's mad. Yeah.
Remember, this guy's a rookie. Yeah. When he first came over here, he said it in an interview I did with him. He said he wasn't sure about coming overseas and didn't think he'd like it, but felt like Manchester was a great place for him, and he'd been welcomed, and he quickly grew to love being in Manchester. But you're looking at his stats after some game. This guy had a triple-double.
I think it was very close to 2, maybe 3.
He was a walking double-double, that's for sure. He had games where he went 6 for 6 from behind the arc. You know what I mean? He went inside and did what he was doing. I mean, there was that thing which was a bit misconstrued where Vince thought I'd said that he couldn't shoot threes, and then he went and did.
You definitely said that. You definitely said that.
No, I did not say he couldn't.
Guys, we're under a minute to go.
Yeah, we'll come back and we'll talk a bit more on the BBL's selections. Welcome back. Let's move things along. I don't think any of us really are going to disagree too much with the defensive team. Sharma at centre, Roberson, Onwaz, Anderson, as in Jamal Anderson, and Larry Austin Jr., who for my money has been the best defensive point guard on ball, off ball we've had. Well, certainly since he's been playing it, really, for the last 2 seasons. Anybody they want to throw in for defensive?
No, that's a class team.
Yeah, I think they got that one right. British Team of the Year, again, I don't think we've got too much to argue about with this one. Sharma again made it. Watson Gale had a phenomenal season. Kimball McKenzie, bit of a shoehorn for the 3 in terms of Patrick Whelan. So Watson Gale, Kimball McKenzie, Patrick Whelan. Kimball's a point guard. I guess they put him at the 2. Watson Gale at the guard. Whelan at forward, which I guess he kind of is. Nelson was the one I had a problem with for the same reason as Dekker. I thought Jamal Anderson deserved it. I thought statistically Jamal Anderson has been phenomenal and a real key player on a team that, as it always seems to do, is hit with injuries and lack of depth. Grant, my man?
Yeah, I think 100% he's one that's been kind of maybe not forgotten about, but I'm guessing he may have been the next guy in. I was very excited about someone like I said in the pre-season show. Really excited to see what Luke Nelson can do. I don't think we saw the best of Luke Nelson in the BBL.
No.
There was games when he got his shot going, you're just like, he's automatic. He can get anything that he wants. But there was times where I was like, we're not seeing Luke Nelson play the way I kind of thought he'd be. But on the flip of that, Pat Whelan, if he's getting all British team for this season, in my opinion, he was 2, 3, 4, 5 times better last season.
Well, he was knocking on the door of MVP last season, yeah.
Absolutely. And so that then makes me think, well, maybe he sat out a few games out in the season, he's not maybe been 100%, but there was times when I thought like Pat Whelan just did his job.
Hold on, you're penalising him because he sat out a few games?
No, I'm just saying he's not been as good as the season before.
He only sat out 2 games.
But this season? But my point being, I thought at times he played hurt. You looked hurt. I'm sure Rob actually said that in comments as well.
Yeah. Still the highest ranked British player overall in terms of raw numbers, which is
fair enough. Then I'll go.
Only topping Jamal Anderson. And Jamal Anderson was the second guy.
100% Jamal Anderson. He again eye test for me watching games. That first game they played Gladiators, he man-marked David Sloan out of the game. David Sloan had burst onto our scene, scored, 30-plus points against Lions. He then struggled for 8 points against that next team and got something like probably 6 or 7 turnovers, all because Anderson was on him. They changed that round, and I was actually surprised more teams didn't copy that tactic. Ben Thomas nailed that, and you can't argue with Jamal as on the ball, off the ball, one of the best defensive players in the league, and then also then one of the best British players as well. I thought
gold medal over the
summer.
That team. Yeah.
Exactly. So big Anderson fan, and yeah,
I feel bad about it because I'm a huge Nelson family. Steve Nelson, he was one of my heroes. Luke Nelson, I just loved so much watching him come here and play, and hoping he stays and continues, and makes more of an impact than he did this season. Again, it's that thing, maybe he didn't need to make as much of an impact because they had plenty of forwards, and he was forced to play guard. He was kind of out of position for a large chunk of the season when Tariq Phillip went down, and it was before Taylor came in, wasn't it? And then they brought Taylor in, and he kind of got to play his usual role. But Josh, anything to add on that? We've lost ads, by the way. We're hoping he'll come back in a minute.
No, to be honest, like I said, I saw that. I have no arguments with it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, look, Pabz, you make a good point there about between Henry and Nelson, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. That team has no issues with me. I have no issues with that team, sorry.
I don't think we need to talk about MVP regarding the debate we've had just earlier with Dekker, whether or not he played enough games and whatnot. So we'll move straight on to the Coach of the Year award. It was given to Ryan Schmidt. I'm going to give Ads a message, see if we can get him on, because I'm going to be outnumbered in this one, I feel. But Grant, my man, happy with that selection? He wasn't your number one shout, if I remember rightly.
You going to tell me it wasn't?
Well, you know your number one shout was.
I generally can't remember yesterday, so... And my coach, I can't remember what I put for coach, but no, I can't argue that. I think I said when we spoke in here, end of the season, like, I think Ryan Schmidt's done an incredible job. I think it's from a coach's point of view, and okay, you've got the support staff, the biggest budget, the best team on paper, but you still need to be the glue guy. You still need to get them playing both on a weekend in the BBL to a midweek in deepest, darkest, wherever they ended up going across Europe. That's never easy to keep your team going. I know this is on the BBL, so they did win 3 out of 4 of the tournaments. I've maybe changed my tune on some of the other stuff in terms of when we talked about Rob, but we'll get to that. I generally don't think, having then spoken to Ryan Schmidt a couple of times up in Glasgow and at the playoff finals, like he's a pretty committed guy to that team, and I think London got a good one in Coach Schmidt. I totally do.
Josh, my man.
That's what I think about Ryan Schmidt, because to kind of bounce off the back of what Grant just said there, it's very... And Pabz, do you remember when the Patriots, it was around Christmas time, I was commentating Lions versus Patriots, and I made a comment on the broadcast. I said that you look at this Lions team, it's not just about the money, it's also the coaching. And do you remember quite a few Patriots fans didn't quite like that comment? Do you remember the one I'm alluding to?
No, say that again.
So there's a guy on Twitter called Loiterer. He's got
the seagull guy. Yeah.
Yeah, the seagull guy, yeah. The family's very committed Patriots fans. Actually a very nice family as well. I made a comment on the live...
to him more. Yeah.
I made a comment live on the YouTube stream at the Copper Box. I think the game must have been December or January. I think it was December. And I said, Lions are up by 20 points. I said, you look at this team, it's not just about the money, it's also about the coaching. And I made that comment, and Loiter, it said that made him laugh. I think he was kind of being very satirical about it. And it's kind of saying what Grant is alluding to. You look at the Manchester Giants. They had a talented team, but that team was scoring 89 points per game this season and almost giving away 90 points. The reason why, in my mind, Ryan Schmidt is such a good coach is because he coached an exceptionally individually talented team, but enabled them to be the very best defensive team in the league. I think on average, teams probably got 73 points per game against the Lions this year. That's how good they were defensively. And also, when you have to coach so many players that come from such big backgrounds, there are a lot of egos there. And to get them to play the style they are and against a BBL, and respect, there are some good teams in the BBL, but to play the style they did, that takes a lot, that does. Now, granted, he had a very good assistant coaching staff. He works with a very good GM. There's a good ownership behind it, so it is a very collective effort. So in my mind, for Ryan Schmidt to win Coach of the Year was definitely justifiable for the fact that defensively, the Lions were great. If they weren't such a great defensive team, I would have had questions about it, but the fact that they were great defensively justifies that he was Coach of the Year.
I do get it, and we're waiting for Ads to join back on, but I get it. I get why you got it. I just think there needs to be more thought about it. The very essence, the very suggestion that it's not all about money, to me is ridiculous, because obviously if you don't have the money, you can't afford Ryan Schmidt in the first place.
But who else would have been a good candidate in your mind, though?
Well, whoever they can afford, it doesn't matter. They can.
I meant anyone.
What, in the BBL?
Who could have been BBL? Yeah.
Well, looking at it as a whole, my number one pick was Coach Kapoulis. for the simple fact that everybody had them picked as coming second to bottom, if not bottom. And the way he recruited that team and the way he coached that team, they were very close to going all the way. Like, it was nip and tuck with the Riders in the semi-final, and it could have gone either way. And that team, and it happens through the season, it's not really a valid excuse, but injuries is what hindered them. I don't agree you've got to win silverware per se to win a Coach of the Season award, particularly from our perspective, from a journalistic perspective, where we can look at the big picture and actually assess everyone. I thought Ben Thomas had a phenomenal coaching season as well. Got to the 2 finals, a high league position finish for a team that, I mean, it's their own fault to a degree. They don't have the funding necessarily to have a roster that's particularly deep, but what he put together and what he did with that team, banged up as they were towards the end, bringing in Marcus Evans at a later stage, who was a catalyst for that team. I thought it was phenomenal. He was another good shout. And of course Gareth Murray, first time coaching as not as a player coach. Again, limited budget, puts together that team, bunch of rookies, and takes them not only to a final but wins the final. And again, if it weren't for injury, they probably could have gone further in the playoffs. Who knows? So they were my shouts for it. Ads, my man, Coach of the Year.
Well, for me, this is the one I've got a lot to say about, because
you back then?
It's just a cop out. You know what I mean? Schmidt ain't the Coach of the Year. It just isn't.
Go on.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, what's he done? So just tell me what he's done for a second.
Well, sorry. Okay, so Pabz, because he's entered late, I need to reinstate everything that I just said. So, okay, Adam, I know you're probably looking at the fact that, he was the coach who had the biggest budget. He was able to get the best players, hence why they were successful. Okay, fine. It's very easy to have that perspective. Whoa, you gotta let me finish. You gotta let me finish. You gotta let me finish.
The question.
You gotta let me finish. I was quiet, but you gotta let me finish.
Okay? Carry on.
But the fact is, if that is your perspective, then I'll tell you quite frankly that you don't know basketball. That's that. You don't actually understand basketball. The point is, he coached the best team with the best players. But what was that team best at this season? They weren't best offensively. They were the best defensive team. He had to take players that came from NBA backgrounds, EuroLeague backgrounds, experience in Pro A, Italy, ACB, you name it, Lithuania.
Oh, my
and he
heart
had
bleeds.
to get this team to play together. Yeah, your heart bleeds because you don't know what you're talking about. It's as simple as that.
Thank you.
The fact is that he coached.
You're cancelling what you said earlier about me knowing a lot.
Defensively. Well, no, but you're calling me out. If you're calling me out, I'll call you back out.
I'm not calling you out.
So let me finish.
You're slagging me off. Yeah.
But let me finish then. I don't interrupt you. So
yes, you do. Okay? But carry on.
All right, I'll give you a little handkerchief. You can cry on that. But the point is, I'm trying to make. I do love you though, by the way. But the point is, I'm trying to make to coach a team with great talent and to make them as defensively as great as they were, and to have the record they were, which was the basic reason why they were the best team in the league, justifies that he was a good coach. To say he's not a good coach, what has he done? Well, again, if it's not about winning, then what is it about? Okay? And if it's not about taking great players and getting them to unify to win a treble and to be the best defensive team, then how can you say, what has he done? But then again, I'm curious, Adam, if he's not Coach of the Year in your opinion, who is?
Kapoulis. Hands down. Look what the guy's done without the budget that Schmidt's got, without the roster that Schmidt's got. We'd written Bristol off at the start of the season.
Beat Lions twice as well.
And look what they've done. You know what I mean? What a great season.
He outcoached Schmidt twice.
Gareth Murray has had a great season. He's won some hardware. You know, he's been up against it. So for you to try and tell me that Schmidt is the Coach of the Year when he has one player that earns more than the rest of the BBL combined, shut up.
Do you know what? Actually, we need to highlight that. We talk about the money thing, and people say, "Oh, it's not about the money." It's not about the money. It's all about. It's 100% about. There's not another sport in this. Well, I was going to say country, but there's not another sport in the world, to the best of my knowledge, where, let's go through it. So Dekker, he's worth, if we're generous and we ignore the rumours and we say he's on probably less than what he's on.
Grant, I know, Grant.
Dekker's worth at least 6 entire rosters And then we got a Taylor, who's worth at least 3 entire rosters. Zubcic is worth 3 or 4 entire rosters. Hruban is worth 3 entire rosters. And this is rosters, not just players. If we're talking players, that's like 9 to 12 players per roster. That's not an equivalent anywhere else in the world. Even Man City, who are the biggest spenders in the Premier League, don't come anywhere near to the difference of that. Absolutely nowhere near. They should have, when they put that post up that said the terrific treble, they should have put the inevitable treble. No team can come close to that. Schmidt was the coach of that team. I get why he got it. He won all the silverware. He didn't win all of it because he fucked it up in the trophy. Well, they threw the trophy. Sorry, Grant. But it's inevitable. It's inevitable, and it's probably inevitable for the next 5 years at least. Which is, I mean, let's look at the.
Are we still on Coach of the Year? Are we going?
Yeah, but this is all relevant. Let's look at the Gladiators roster and look at what Gareth. Let me finish. Look, Gareth Murray did with 100
you know what it's like to be
grand.
interrupted. Okay.
Yeah, you do it every time. Well, look what the Gladiators did with 100 grand, £100,000. That wouldn't even pay for Dekker's pillowcase. Like 100 grand, and he built that team, and they actually won a final. Like, and we're told, or we hear rumours that that's going to be trebled next season to 300 grand, which is a fart in a hurricane when you look at what the fucking Lions can put out there. They're going to spend more money next season because they want EuroLeague, and to do that they need to compete with the teams that are paying it, so they're going to pay that kind of money. And I credit to them, the players will be playing in the BBL as well, but I'm not sure that's going to be a good look for the next 5 years. But I mean, we'll circle back to that in a minute. But in terms of Coach of the Year, I get why he got it. 100% get why he got it, but it's inevitable, and I don't think enough's taken into account regarding exactly the amount of money that they had, what these players are worth. Yeah.
Again, at the start of the season, if you were to go, who's going to be Coach of the Year? It's like, well, the London coach. Of course, the London coach. Much like who's going to be MVP and on Team of the Year? Well, Dekker, before they've even played a game.
Ads, are we doing your predictions for next season before the first weekend?
You could do. We could do the next 5 years of predictions.
Based on this, if you want to do that, I'm well down with it, because look, right. Pabz
Dekker's going to be here for 5 years.
Pabz said it a bit with the Man City thing, right? I used to go and watch City on a regular basis at Main Road when they played in the second division, right?
Sean Goethe.
When the money came in and they moved to the Etihad after the Commonwealth Games, I went a couple of times and I was like, nah, it's done. I'm just not into it, you know what I mean? Because it went from being nothing to everything overnight, literally. And the thing with it is in terms of the Premier League, it's a different entity entirely, because there's several teams that can afford to pay the salaries that they're doing. It's a much more level playing field for a team to come out of nowhere and suddenly buy success, as a lot of people say. However, what happens in the BBL, and to me, this is so British basketball, they get a very, very wealthy investor from the States who comes over and goes, right, we're gonna sort this league out, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And oh, by the way, we're also gonna buy one of the teams as well.
Who is?
And it's like, all right, so hang on a minute. Oh. You're going to come in and be the majority shareholders of the league.
We all know the other way around. They were Lions first. Yeah, they got the Lions first, dude.
They had the Lions first.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. It really.
Oh, it does matter in your narrative.
No, it doesn't matter at all. Look, at the end of the day, it's like somebody coming in and going, right, I'm buying out the Premier League. Oh, and I'm also having Man City as well, and we're also going to buy so and so, and
it wouldn't be allowed in any other sport.
Think about it. Just think about what you are saying, please. Right?
It's the other way around.
You're telling me that the best coach of the season and the best player of the season are Dekker and Schmidt, and it's like, well, it'd be a bit of a fuck up if they weren't. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they were. They were the best player and coach.
Done what he's done. Gareth Murray's done what he's done, and they're not contenders for Coach of the Year. It's a cop out, Josh. It's the whole thing is a cop out. You can't buy a team in the league and then buy the league as well. Do you know what I mean?
Why not? Why not? Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that?
you can't also then.
Why can't you do that?
Going, we're getting rid of the salary cap in the BBL. I said it at the time. It's like, well, what do you fucking do?
Yeah. Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that?
Nobody.
Why can't
it
you
affects
do what?
the London Lions, the team that you own, right? It affects you and nobody else. How does you lifting the salary cap affect Leicester, Newcastle, Manchester, Surrey, all these teams? It doesn't. It's just ridiculous, man. And you go on about the London Lions, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this: the experiment clearly didn't work, because obviously the direction of what they're trying to do with this league is going in another direction now. We're hearing the whole thing was, we're going to make London this big franchise that gets Europeans watching the game and, put the British Basketball League on the map. And it hasn't. And they've
how's it not? How's it not, though? I'm asking, how's it not? And now we were debating coach of the year. Now we're going direction of the league. We changed the argument now.
I'll tell you how. Because nobody's watching British basketball outside of Britain because the London Lions are in Europe.
Huh? Say that again? Say that again. I didn't get that.
Well, I'm saying to you that their idea was to make the Lions this big deal in Europe so that they become an attractive thing to watch that brings fans to the BBL. Failed. Hasn't worked. They're not bringing a new audience because the Lions have been in Europe.
What do you mean it's not? What do you mean it's failed? Hold on. How has it failed? Explain how it's failed. That doesn't make any sense. How
they wanted investment in the league. Here's what they haven't got it.
Right. You look at, and somebody got into an argument with me on Twitter, and I can't be arsed with it. Pabz sort of came up with some good points, and people were saying, because I made the point that the copper box is suddenly full every night, because they're basically having these nights where it's free for everyone to get in.
How do you know that, though? How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because they announced it, that it was free for fans to get into the game.
That only happened a few nights. Only a few nights that happened. Not every game, though.
A few nights, though.
And they had to make a donation to charity.
Donation to charity, yes. Yeah. Fans still made donations to charity.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, donation to charity. Should we just call that a tax write-off here and now, which is what it is? Thank you. And then they're going, no, the copper box was full last year and the year before. No, it wasn't. And somebody actually started doing screenshots of the last few seasons with the copper box empty. And they very carefully position the cameras towards the crowd that is in there. But then if you look from behind the basket, it's empty. And then
is that not what Manchester do every week?
And then, of course it is. Of course it is. But not the team that is supposedly now filling a venue off the back of them being a basketball franchise.
Not the flagship team.
We're going through the struggle like everybody else is, Josh. Right? And then they start paying rappers to come and sit at courtside and doing the halftime show. And then they start selling 400 quid jackets and fucking ball bags.
Ball bags!
You know what I mean? and a mate of mine who's been down there plenty of times over the years, it's almost like when you go there, it's like, well, am I going to a basketball game or a hip hop concert? I don't get.
I've got to stop you now. Because first of all, First of all, stop. Sorry. I've got to stop you here. First of all, you just proved a great point in my favor for this. Yes, last season, the season when they were in the FIBA Europe Cup, it wasn't full. The season before that, it was a COVID year. The Vince McCauley days, you were lucky to get maybe a couple of hundred people in there. But let me tell you, post-Christmas, the copper box, apart from those charity donation nights where it's free to go, it was nearly sellouts. We're talking above 4,000 people. And you said there...
Not full tickets.
No, hold on. Was it? Let me finish. Hold on. And then you just said there, you go there and there's famous rappers there. Adam, you're an NBA fan. You like the Atlanta Hawks. If you go to an NBA game, that's what you get. You get celebrities there. You get halftime entertainment. That's part of the package to a professional basketball. That's how you attract fans to go. So again, you're criticizing 777 here for not doing enough for the league. And essentially, they put on a good entertainment show. And the copper box, yes, this season, it was much better than it's ever been historically. It was more or less sold out after Christmas.
Right. Full of people that were going because it was the gig in town to go to because it's a good Instagram selfie.
What's wrong with that?
They're not looking at a return market.
Is that not what every show and gig is?
Thank you, Grant. Is that not what everything is about?
Hold on.
They're sat there courtside putting it on the timelines. Everything. It's like, right, okay, cool. Here's a picture of you with so-and-so. Yeah, but they're not posting anything what's going on the court. It's all pictures of them with somebody or this, that, and the other. Don't compare it to the NBA. The The NBA is the biggest league in the fucking world. They've been doing that stuff for years. Yeah? They have rappers there, but the rappers are fans of the game. Drake is a fan of the game. Sits courtside. You know, you look at the front row of LA, it's basketball fans. It's not rappers and influencers that are being paid to go and make it look like a good night out.
I think one of the things you're alluding to, which is something that I've maybe taken issue with to a degree, although I get you want to fill the venue and you want people to sit, is the focus on kind of returning customers, if you were. There's not you wouldn't call it a solid fan base that the Lions have got. It's a different. No. It's not a bad thing, I guess. It's a different 4,000 people each time, but you don't have that. We've got. I think we made a comment on Twitter or something. Somebody called ads out on Twitter. I think this is what you were talking about before, for making a comment regarding London Lions fans. And there's such a small fan base that only one person took offence to it, and no one else did. And it's like, but that's it. But then that's what they're having to do to fill the copper box for whatever reason. Let's
Well, here's one for you, right? Here's one for you. How many fans from the London Lions go to road games?
2 or 3. I think they had
2 or 3.
I think they had 30 go to a European one. Well, they didn't have any come to.
We have fans that travel abroad to watch European games.
Every time
they didn't all come to Plymouth.
The playoff final, then you did Leicester fans.
Well, it's because it's in London.
If Leicester comes to town, they bring loads of fans. If Newcastle comes to town, they bring fans. If Cheshire comes to town, they're hardcore, loyal fans of the game.
Pats have got the best
when
fans.
London comes to town, nobody's there.
Hundreds of Pats fans travel. Hundreds.
Go on, keep going.
Manchester. There's been Plymouth fans.
And it's nearer to go to Europe for Plymouth as well.
Do you know what I mean? There's fans that have come up to Manchester to watch Plymouth lose and go home.
All right, easy. Let's not fucking get personal.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is you're making out like the Lions have suddenly become this hot ticket in town with loads of fans. Bullshit. It's bullshit. It's easy to chuck money and make a production and make it smoke and mirrors. Yeah? And believe me, I know about smoke and mirrors because I watched what happened to the Manchester Giants 2 years, and everything I said about it was correct.
Absolutely.
Right? So what I'm saying to you is this all this thing about, the Lions are suddenly doing this, that, and the other, and there's all these people showing up at the game. It's like, well, do you know what I mean? Great. And then you counteract it with, it was a charity donation. You know what I mean, Josh? Multi-million-dollar companies, multi-million-pound companies love a good charity gig because it's a way to write off some money.
Shall we take a little break, fellas, and come back and look at the direction with which the league is going? Go, Grant.
Man, I just wanted to talk about Coach of the Year and say how I think...
You missed the boat on that one.
I mean, ads turned left. Ads went the wrong way around the roundabout there. No. Wow. Ads, I love that. Ads, thank you for showing your passion on something that I love, I disagree with. No, but see, in terms of like Lions, you're creating a show. Everything nowadays in sport, live sport, is just entertainment. Wherever you can do it. Even football teams are trying to think of what they're doing. Every sport's doing it. Cricket, rugby. Every sport is trying to create this whole spectacle around their event. You're daft not to. We're all basketball people and we're there to watch the basketball, right? But that's not how you're going to draw in all these audiences now. We talk about these hardcore fans and all that. But how many fans are actually in the BBL hardcore fans? Who go every week, who have a season ticket? I
would argue that the Surrey fans, the Cheshire fans, the Plymouth fans, they can't get a ticket because of the hardcore fans.
Can they?
No.
Surrey, maybe I'll give you Surrey. Surrey sell it.
Surrey, Cheshire sell out as well. I was going to say Bristol, but Bristol have only got like two to 5 seats. Yeah.
Hey, you've been well, I know we do, but
still they sell out. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, they sell out, but you look at other markets.
Newcastle sells out as well. Sorry, Leicester don't, which is weird. But carry on.
I mean, in Newcastle, you're talking about the benchmark.
Let Grant finish.
Let Grant
finish. Like,
I'm trying to retort to you. Sorry. Newcastle's an interesting one, but yeah, In terms of what we're talking about, Lions creating, I totally get it. See, if I've got a kind of sports management / events management background. Everything they're doing is what I would look to do as basic stuff to bring in different audiences. Is that's what we're wanting to do to the sport. Because see the hardcore basketball from the 90s, noughties, 10s, whatever, it's not enough to fill out stadiums. It's not enough to fill out arenas to what we've got. We're having to go and create other demands, whether it's influencers. And hey, do I know half the people going to these things? No. Okay, it's London. I don't know any London rappers. Definitely not my scene. But that's okay. If they were to do something like that at the Gladiators, I'd probably know who they were and probably take more notice. If they did it in Manchester or some Mancunian people, it would mean more to that audience. I don't know any of them, so that's fine. But I get why they're doing it. But we're saying that they're like gone are the days where we just have 40-minute fans. It's the whole event. Look at BBL games lasting freaking 2 hours now. I'm moaning about that because I'm tired after an hour and a half. But it's like we can't. If that's what we're doing, making these things like spectacles for fans to go to, and whether you're listening to you guys commentate, or if you're in the stadium or the arena, and buying the merch, buying the hot dogs, but taking a photo. I wish I had a smartphone back in the day when I was a kid.
Oh, God, yeah.
When I look at who used to play in the Rocks team, frickin' Ted Berry. I would love the fucking selfie of Ted Berry. No one's got that in the BBL because it didn't exist. The tech wasn't there.
You have to take an actual camera, yeah.
You had to take a camera and take it to a shop to get it developed. See, this whole instant media we live in, though. And if we go back to the 90s and the good times of British basketball, and all these top players, which 100% they are, and you look at the tape and they are, but these guys are different. We've got a different type of game. We've got instant media. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, everything's instantaneous. Like, everything's happening. So if someone taking a smartphone, tagging where they are, gets it noticed. What did you have to used to do in the background in the old days? Freaking leaflets, posters on like a wee notice board being like, oh, the basketball's on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Head down to the Northgate Arena in Chester to see the Chester.
Word of mouth was big back in the day.
Yeah,
but this is just a modern day word of mouth.
Last thing I just want to add to that, though. Last thing, because Ads, you made one very good point that I do agree with you. Okay,
just one.
The fan bases of Newcastle, Plymouth, even Caledonia. Yeah, you know what? Those fan bases, they're much more experienced. They've been around a lot longer. The success has been around a lot longer. So what have Lions had to work with this year? They've had to organically build this fan base.
No, there's nothing organic about it. Don't say organic.
Listen. You've made this point that they've had to buy their fan base. And I get that. But the point I've tried to say is the reason they had to do this, there hasn't been a fan base there because before the club's been in. All right, but you don't let me finish. I'm trying to make the point why it's not organic.
Go on then.
The point I'm trying to make is this. The club started in Hemel. Then it moved to Milton Keynes. Then it almost moved to Liverpool, and it went to London. So there isn't an organic fan base because the roots of the team has been around the place, which teams in Newcastle, Plymouth, they've done a good job over the years of developing those fan bases. So again, if you're just going to say they're chucking money to build a fan base, well, again, it's what Grant is saying. That's what you do in business to build a brand. And you know what? 777, they've done a very good job of making sure the Copper Box that had barely 1,000 people a couple of years ago has now been sold out after. You want to criticize it? Go ahead, but that's the business of sport.
And I'd say now we're at a stage where teams have actually struggled since COVID stuff. We look at all sports across the way. I look at what I do in my job and how my work still struggles with it. COVID audience, people starting coming back to things. So by adding more events to the game, you're drawing in these people back, whether it's to get their kids, their pals or whatever through influencers, freaking half-court shots, mascots, taking pictures with them, face paint, whatever it may be. All that extra stuff is needed to bring new people in. And London are taking it to the extremes. We're talking about 400 quid jackets. Yeah, that's way outside our price point, but that's fine. But that's going to someone. There was a few years ago when it was Spalding. You could buy any of the team in the league could get you a Spalding jacket. I'm thinking it was 250 quid. Every team could have sold them. Rocks did. People bought them in the Rocks game. Big, long duffel coat type Spalding branded jackets. That was available for teams to put in their shops. So it's nothing new in that sense. Yeah, £400 for these jackets, which I wouldn't wear, but there's nothing. It's nothing new. It's just because London have done it differently. I would love to know how what's organic? How do you build an organic fan base? Because if we can do that, then why is our league not doing better? You need to pay people or pay for things to get your image out there nowadays.
And this is my problem with it. Do we? We're going to have to take a break and come back.
Come back.
Yeah.
Come back. Wood going now.
Recording in progress.
So,
right.
My issue with... hello. Go on then.
Let me just make this point, right? Because you're rattling off all these reasons as to why London are doing this, that, and the other, and they're doing a great job marketing, blah, 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 blah. And then you also mentioned Newcastle, Plymouth, and who else did you mention? Glasgow, Caledonia. Okay, let me tell you now what those 3 clubs have done to get themselves to the position that they have got to. They have been out in the community, going into schools, doing camps, doing workshops, doing whatever. They've got guys like Alvisi Dusha, who goes out and does stuff in schools. Newcastle are one of the best community clubs you're ever going to see. Yeah?
Yeah, they run things up there, yeah.
London, however, just go, oh, this rapper's pretty hot at the moment. Sign a check, will you? So if you want to talk about organic growth comes by getting out there into your community and forming a bond with the people that you want to come to your games and building up a solid fan base. Like, I mean, look at Plymouth. Plymouth exemplify that point, right?
It's all in the community, yeah.
Is it? And I 100% agree with that. And every club needs to do that better. And I think Gladiators now in their new place will do that even better. And historically, and I know it's one thing that the Timonies want to do is get back in touch with the community. I don't think the last few years of the Rocks we did that very well. But isn't that just another way of you're having to pay to do all that community work? You're having to pay to set up all those stuff. And I 100% agree that that's another strand of growing a fan base. And I think it should be a bigger strand for a lot of teams. And you're right by what you're saying. Like Newcastle have done amazing things with their kind of Eagles leagues and
yeah, they run everything out there. Yeah.
Yeah, like it is brilliant. And you just wonder, like, you hope teams are looking at that model to take on. And I spot on agree with you, Ads. But I would then just counter that by saying that it's just another. If their aim is to sell Eagles basketball or Lions basketball, then that's just another like a strand to the growth of the club's image, value, and whatever else.
And Adam, do you have proof that London don't do the same?
Well, we don't see anything.
Yeah,
that's not to say they don't.
Know that that's what I'm saying. But Adam, do you have proof that they don't?
No, I really don't. But I'm sure if they were doing it, it'd be all over their social media. But it's not. So there you go.
But again, if you don't have proof, if you don't know that they don't do it, then how can you say? How can you? I mean, look, what you said was a great point.
Yeah,
you said it's a good point.
Fair,
they are going to schools. They are working with the community. But the fact is, I know for a fact London do actually go in schools and do provide coaching and do provide stretch out the community.
Why don't they talk about it? Why don't they tell people what it is that they're out there doing?
Well, they must go into schools.
Has Sam Dekker been out in schools doing stuff?
Because when they fill those empty seats with schools, they have to go to a school in the first place.
Has Taj Green been out in schools?
As far as I'm aware, yeah, he did.
He took an assembly. Yeah, it was on. That was on social media.
Yeah, you know, as Dekker, you know what I mean. The problem with it is that the modern athletes are not like a lot of the older athletes where, you know, back in the day, the BBL guys, you'd see them around communities doing stuff. You know, they did it. You know, whether all of them wanted to do it, who knows. Whereas now, I just get the feeling that you'd sit there in a room with certain modern athletes, not just in the BBL. But, you know, let's bring it to, you know what I mean? You sit down and you say, all right, Sam Dekker, here's how much we're going to pay you this year. And, oh, by the way, as part of that, you've got to go into a couple of schools, inner city London, and do a couple of assemblies and read to the kids. You know, is he going to go, yeah, all right, cool. Probably not.
These guys had to do that in the NBA.
How did you know that? How did you know that, though? This is an assumption.
Well, I don't.
This is an assumption.
Speculating.
Yeah, it's a speculation, yeah.
Whereas LVC...
you can't stop him.
We know what LVC does.
Right, okay.
So is what I'm saying.
You're disappointed that Sam Dekker doesn't go into schools on the assumption that he doesn't read books, because that's not an organic way of building a fan base, even though you may not know that he does actually do it.
Well, no, I don't, but I would bet my bottom dollar that...
Okay, but it's an assumption, though. It's not definitive, it's speculation.
If management had dared to say to Sam Dekker, can you go to a school in Hackney and do an assembly and, read something to the kids, he's going to go, yeah, sure.
He probably would. Again, I'm loving that this is speculation, not definitive.
I want to change the tone slightly. We've talked about whether or not it's organic and the money that's being spent. Here's my issue with the money that's been spent, and I'm almost reluctant to say it because last time we touched on this, I got a phone call, and it was a long phone call. And I would say this now, actually, I was going to say it at the end, but the last thing I ever want to be accused of is being somebody that, in the way that we talk and the debates we have and the angle at it that we come at, is that we're in some way holding the league back or talking like people that this is not something I've ever wanted to do. Never in a million years have I ever wanted to hold this league back. Let me get that straight first of all. But from what I see, from how things are unfolding, my issue with the spending, they've got the money to spend, absolutely fine. And it's a term I know they don't like and I know they don't agree with, is conflict of interest. I know there's a very solid belief that the better the Lions do, the better the league does. I don't happen to agree with that. I think the better the Lions do, the better the Lions do. And that is evident when you look at the discussion recently, I forget what it was on, of investors coming in for the Lions, and when the attention is turned to other teams in the league and the league itself, they don't want to know. They want to invest in the Lions because the money's already there and the success, the kind of pathway is already there. That's something that BBL teams can maybe strive to, but it's going to be difficult to get there. But the conflict of interest for me is when you hear people within the league say things like, well, what do you want us to do? Why should we bankroll these other teams in the BBL? Why they should be getting investment themselves? Why should we be doing this? And the answer is because you own the league. It's in your best interest to make the league a competitive environment and an environment where teams are not necessarily on the same field, but to a degree because the next 5 years for me is Lions winning everything, and I'm not looking forward to that because no one can come near them financially. Hopefully I'm wrong and investors come in and buy in, but that's my issue. Why should they prop up the rest of the teams in the league? They've had to prop 2 teams up anyway, because if not they'd have gone. That for me is why. You own the league. It's in your best interest to do that.
Okay, so I'm going to counter that, okay? 5 years ago, British Basketball League was dominated by 2 teams, Newcastle Eagles, Leicester Riders. At that point, best British basketball players, they weren't coming back to the BBL. They were playing abroad. Now, going back to Adam's conflict of interest, the point he was making earlier.
Whoa, hang on. Is that it?
No. Let me finish. You don't let me finish. You got to let me finish. The point
I don't know what you just changed to something Ad said.
No. You got to let me finish, dude. Let me finish. Okay? Just let me say my word. I didn't interrupt you, so let me say my word. Okay? The point is, they came in and took over the Lions. Okay? They're an investment company. They took an interest in British basketball. They thought, let's purchase a team. Let's try and invest in it. Okay? Now, the thing is as well, is that there was a salary cap. So they took over the league, okay? The reason they took over the league is that the way that the league was operating before, there was no potential for growth in this league. We weren't getting the best British basketball players coming back to play in the BBL. We weren't getting BBL teams to compete at a European level. Leicester tried. It failed miserably. Now, you make a good point there. You're saying, well, the way that the money is spending, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be like this for the next 5 years. But that doesn't mean to say that the success of the Lions, the success of how this team has done this year, that there's going to be potential for expansion, meaning there's going to be more people that look to come in and invest in teams, more people that try to expand new franchise. There are a hell of a lot of big markets in this country that'd be good for basketball. Belfast, Liverpool, Birmingham especially. There's a lot of places where new teams can come in. And, Pabz, I got to tell you as well that, it really isn't 7-7's responsibility to worry about the other teams. They owned their team. They own the majority of the league so that they can expand it. But if anything, this should be saying to other teams, hey, you need to find more investment. To be more competitive, you need to look at the ways to bring more cash coming in.
It's difficult to get investors to buy into a league that they've got no chance of winning. And I
don't agree with that. Well, there is chance.
You cannot agree.
It's
fine.
So this is where
that's fact. But just before you say that, your point. Well, it's fact. Your point on progression.
It's not fact.
Of course, it's fact. We've established that the teams that spend the most money win the league. Simple as that.
Right, but that doesn't mean that more people can come and invest. You said it's people won't invest because they got no chance of winning.
Yeah, they got no chance of winning because unless they can find investors of that caliber, which
that's what I'm saying. That's the
no
point
one has done as of yet. But in terms of just hang on, in terms of improvement in the league was improving. The league was bringing in better players. It wasn't a a rapid rate that it potentially could be now. The only difference in standard of teams, realistically, is the Lions. The Lions increased their talent pool massively. The rest of the league, since I started watching again in 2014-15, the standard has risen considerably. It's more gradual, it's more organic, there's that word again. But it's not like it was on its arse. It had been on its arse, and it's on its way back up. And one of the topics we talked about regularly is, it's getting better, it's getting better. And I guess be careful what you wish for, because the ultimate ideal is to have big-time investors come in and take care of the league. We've had the big-time investors. They're taking care of the Lions. They've made improvements to the league. But there's a massive drop-off in that. Go on, Grant.
Well,
yeah, but it wasn't. Sorry, I can say one more. Sorry, Grant. One last thing. Sorry, before you start, Grant. Sorry, and you'll go right after me. Pabz, I disagree with what you're saying, because you're saying it was growing at a slow pace. Slow pace. Excuse me. We lost Worcester Wolves and we lost Plymouth Raiders, so it wasn't going anywhere. And they took over the league.
Not for those teams, but for the rest of the league.
To find future franchises that can be self-sustainable and can compete. Go ahead, Grant. Go ahead.
Well, I can't come back. Fucking brilliant. Go on, then, Grant.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
No, go on, Grant. Go on, Grant. I don't need to come back here.
No, you don't need to.
I made my statement. It's fine. Grant.
Yeah, and I made my
No, Grant.
Can I make my statement?
We're waiting for it.
I know. Anyway, this is where I probably then switched full circle in this whole argument. We're a full season into what the league's, as league owners, we've got a CEO, but we're yet to still see anything kind of concrete from the league. We've obviously seen the changes we're making to the structure of the league in terms of competitions for next season, and okay, that's not something we've largely debated as of yet. But what is happening from the league? I know there's loads of changes happening and a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. We saw a lot of change in the broadcast.
Pre-band and commentary.
Upping the standard of the broadcast this season, for example, on YouTube. And it was much better. And we got rid of the stupid auto cameras, for example, which were the worst thing ever for British basketball in terms of pissing off its loyal fans. But I want to know what's happening for the league. What 777 are doing for the league, for London, sorry. I get it. I see them, what they're trying to do. I'm yet to see, from a league point of view, what's coming to the table. We were promised this big announcement at the finals, and didn't really materialize into the big announcement I think everyone was expecting. We're being told there's a league rebrand. We're being told, we kind of almost hold on to we hold on to this small help of a league sponsor. It's something we talk about in the past, or competitions having a sponsor. But where is that? What is the play? I would love the CEO to come out and tell people the plan. And okay, he probably addresses that behind closed doors towards all the shareholders and the stakeholders within the league. But and this is maybe us using this forum for that maybe matter in terms of what the fans want to know as well. The fans want to know it. People like us want to know, so that we can speak better about the league for what we know and have more kind of intellectual debate and whatever not. I'm kind of at the point where I'm I see where London are going, but I don't see what the league's going. I don't agree with getting rid of a competition. I like the All-Star game, but the last time we did an All-Star game was a bit of a damp squid. So I'm kind of, when it comes to debating where the money is for the league, I want to see more. I want to hear more. And I'm expecting a big summer from the league. I'm expecting to hear quite a lot of kind of plans, not just saying we're going to play this amount of teams, or I want to hear what's planned for growth. I want to hear what's happening financially for teams. And I get 100% teams can't just go, well, give us the money. Teams need to go and find their own money.
But it's got to start somewhere, isn't it?
No, that's what I'm saying. They need the help, and that's where things like league-wide sponsorship, league-wide help for whatever brings that kind of gravy train on. Say that again, sorry, Pabz?
I thought we were going to get that. I thought that was going to be way back whenever it was. I thought that was going to be the next announcement. The league's got a sponsor.
This is what I'm hoping as well. I'm hoping you see that growth this summer and that we get to know that. Because see, if we start next season and we've not had any of that, then I question what's going on. Because I like what they're doing at London, and I can see teams copying that in strands, maybe not spending the £400 jackets. I think Ads is just jealous that he's not got one. And
I've got loads of jackets worth better than that. Don't worry about them.
But what I just want to see what's happening. I would love to know what the league want to do. we know we've talked about it and we know what they're doing in terms of broadcasting. We've talked about other things like that. But actually, what are you doing to help your clubs out? And there'll be loads of stuff, but I want to hear it. And it's maybe just my nosiness.
Grant, you raised a really good point, because when the league was at its zenith, it was always something like, well, it was the Carlsberg Basketball League, it was the Bud League, it was the Dairy Lee Dunkers League,
Sainsbury's Cola, NatWest,
Sainsbury's Cola, you know,
Haribo BBL Cup,
Blue Circle Cement.
Yeah, but, you know what I mean? But these are good sponsors, and you know, Grant said I'd like to know what the play is. That's what I want to know. I think that the way that they're going to do this is to get a name behind the league again. And obviously, it's in this day and age, you're never going to have the Bud League again. Do you know what I mean? It's not PC enough to have an alcoholic drink sponsor. Nah, you couldn't.
I don't think it's allowed.
Oh shit! I didn't realise. What if they did a 0%
anymore? yeah. No, but you know, something like, you know, a good company that's, you know, got a cool brand or
Marlboro.
something. Yeah, the Marlboro League.
Marlboro Lights.
But it's so true. Like, we all want the same thing from the league. As we said, we all are massive fans of what this league are doing, and have been following it for, between us and here, it's probably not off 100 years, like close enough to potential 100 years of following this league.
All four of us wanted to succeed. Yeah,
absolutely. So I just want to hear what the league wants to do. I would love to hear what it means for other teams. Other teams need to step up. And I think we have maybe had the closed shop for too long of some teams just being happy with the status quo. The teams that were winning in the 10s and the as you would call the Sports Centre era, they were all quite happy winning and ticking on by playing their.
But to be fair, there was no. We just suffered a massive financial loss when the Sky deal was dropped, so there was no money. And I understand there was no strive for European competition, but at the same time, it's a bit like Leicester now. Like, we're all questioning whether or not they want to bother to go into Europe, because if they can't afford it, they can't afford it. I said it before, I struggle to condemn a team if they genuinely can't sustain it. Like, it's tough to do that. And prior to 777 coming in, Leicester had a couple of cracks at it, more expensive than, you know, the success and the expense didn't weigh out. And
yeah. But then my next question is, what are like where the ownership group like, okay, we've tried it, we've dipped our toes, we've ticked that box, we're appeasing people in different strands of the business, but are they going out to try and grow their business? Like, I think a lot of BBL clubs have been quite settled, and I think that's the challenge a lot of
sustainable as well, though.
Well, is it? Like, if they're struggling every week, I don't know, this is...
Well, it depends who you're talking about. If you're talking about Leicester and Newcastle, they didn't go into Europe, but they're sustainable.
Okay, fair. Yeah, fair. But I know other teams that you were hoping to get an extra 5 people into arenas to make sure players were paid. That's not sustainable. No. That's the kind of, I suppose, coming out of that economic crisis where we
lost the league sponsor and lost everything.
But our teams, like, we see teams like Sheffield are moving into an arena that seems to be changing sizes depending on what newspaper it's written in.
Depends how much it rains. It expands in the rain, I've heard.
Oh, Sheffield, it rains a lot.
It'd be massive.
Come to the West Coast of Scotland. But that's my point. Like, it'll be interesting. 777 now need to challenge the teams to go, well, this is what's happening. And maybe they've probably got lucky that the Timonies have got involved at the Gladiators, because they've got that kind of drive and business sense to kind of want to grow and make something work. And it's a bit of a project, but also something that they've been involved in basketball for probably close to 20 years. So it's not as if they've just kind of thrown money. I think that's the kind of general consensus of these guys have just turned up and they're going to throw money. No. The Timonies have been involved in basketball for a long, long time. So they're no mugs, and they'll definitely look to do everything. They might make mistakes, as every good business does, but they're trying to make a difference. And I think Steve, when he spoke with me, kind of threw the gauntlet at the league as well, and at other teams, to be like, well, we need to grow, we need to get moving forward. So if it's teams that, and it's something that we all want this league to get better. So it is up to the teams to challenge it. Even if we talking, say 777 didn't invest in the league, we'd be talking the same discussion about teams having to better themselves. We would be. We'd be saying, we'd be quite happy with, whoever's won the 4 tournaments, and next season will be interesting to see what to do. But at the end of the day, we all want this league to grow. Is that what's going to happen?
It's more rapid for the Lions,
Josh,
more so than anybody else.
Josh, you were at the Hoops Fix event on Sunday, weren't you?
Yeah, I had to leave after the dunk competition, but yeah.
I mean, it looked fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And dare I say it, you're sort of going, well, what Sam's done down there by getting the Jordan brand on board is some next level stuff, you know what I mean? Because it looked great, you know, with all the Jordan branding everywhere as well as the, you know, his own branding. And it just looked like a great event. I tuned in and I watched the girls' game, the 3-point contest, the dunk contest, the boys' game, because, you know, I've got a real interest, as you know, in the youth basketball. I'm around it a lot. I commentate it and that, and I was really enjoying watching it because I literally knew every kid on the rosters because I've commentated them. And I'm looking at it going, see, that's where it's at. And you're kind of going, well, bigger picture here. You know, these 777 obviously got a lot of money and whatnot, but you know, I'm going to tell you now, the Jordan brand's got a lot more money. Okay. And you're going, why aren't we trying to tap into something like that and get a brand relevant to the sport to try and help market it, and be reaching out to brands like Jordan or companies like Foot Locker. Mm-hmm. Or even JD Sports or someone like that, and trying to get them.
We'd never find out if they were, would we? Like, they may be doing that, but we'll never know.
Well, you made a point there. We don't know, but I mean, like I said, first of all, yeah, you're absolutely right, Ads. I mean, the fact that the Jordan brand did sponsor the All-Star game, but you know, Sam also put out on Twitter, because it's for the Hoop Fix, what's it, the Pro-Am that he has this summer, he was also looking for sponsorship for that league as well. So I don't know the ins and outs of that sponsorship, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Look, you all make good points, but at the end of the day, I don't know what's going on in terms of sponsorship. Those are conversations that we will find out, of course. But, you know, Pabz, you've also alluded to this before. In the short run, yeah, London's got it all because they've got great financial backing. But, you know, this is a capitalist country. This is a capitalist professional league. If you've got the money, why not spend it?
It's another reason it's why it's got.
You made another good point that the Timonies, it's great that we've got them on board. However, that's not to say that there aren't millionaires, maybe close billionaires that are thinking about investing in the BBL. Another question you might ask is, well, where have they been in the past? That's the whole thing for the future. By making the BBL look good with its production, by having big market cities be successful, you know, it shows that there's potential for a good professional league in this one. I'm telling you right now, for this league to really kick pace, we need a team in Birmingham. We definitely need the Giants to be.
It needs to be another team in London.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. But there's other markets. There's maybe another market in Scotland. Scottish basketball is very popular. Belfast as well. Belfast could be a very good market as well. So I think the more big market cities that we start to attract in the BBL with fresh ownership that has, you know, the sort of sustainability of creating a big business, of course, with the pockets that 777 have, which is their goal to try and invite in, the league is going in the right direction. That's what I'll say.
Well, Grant, how much of these guys that have invested in Caledonia, it was interesting to hear what you're saying. Do you know what sort of money that they're throwing at it in terms of their wage bill, per se? Like,
how much?
Pabz has already said it early in the show, Ads.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I obviously wasn't on that part of the show, so sorry.
It's gone from 100 grand to 300 grand.
Right. 300 grand.
Ish. Well, so we understand it's speculation, but.
Well, 300 grand. All right. Okay. Well, 300 grand, let's just say, is what?
Fought an hurricane, yeah.
A sixth of the salary of one player down in London. So, you know, I think the guys 8 and 9. I think the guys 8 and 9 on the bench were earning that kind of stuff down in London.
But this is the we'll bring things to a close, I think, now. But this is what goes on in my head, and I'm becoming a glass half empty. My worry is that the gap between the Lions and everybody else will become so big that the teams down the bottom are like, what's the point? We can't get investment, and it's costing us money to do this, and they start pulling out. I think it happened in the WBBL, although it's meant to be just one season. One of the top sides there couldn't compete. and financial reasons, whatever it is, they've stepped back for a season. Hopefully it's only a season. And I worry, I mean, they've already had to step in 777 and rescue. Well, they alluded to 2 teams being, and it worries me that the gap will get so big that essentially could happen. Doing this podcast has been good fun. I've enjoyed it. It's been good debate. Hopefully people listening will enjoy it. Not really intended to hurt anyone's feelings. I will say this though. When the season starts, if the Lions are the only team that has a live broadcast and everyone else is doing it from a fucking cupboard, I will lose my shit. There you go. Anyone else got anything to say?
Well, prepare to lose it then, Pablo.
Anything to say in closing, fellas? Anybody got any? Grant, my man?
Man, I've enjoyed this. I mean, I love this. This is
me too,
good fun.
I'm knackered. That's the only thing.
If we could, I mean, it's now 11 o'clock, so this is standard BTR. Josh, you just logging in now, and we'll get we'll do some predictions
from Croatia.
But no, thanks. I enjoyed this, guys.
It'll be Dubai in the next episode.
Oh, you did fucking... What's he on about?
I'll be in Dubai next episode. We do. I'll be in Dubai.
No, Dubai. Yeah, and I'll be...
What are you doing in Dubai? What are you doing in Dubai?
No, it's a bit of a surprise, and it'll be definitive information, not speculative as well.
Remote commentary from a room in Burj.
They're doing the remote commentary for the BBL from Dubai in a cupboard. That's an upgrade, isn't
it? yeah. What are you doing? Commentating a Lions pre-season game?
I'm commentating the Wheelchair World Basketball World Cup. Thank you.
Nice.
That's cool.
Good effort. Ads, my man. Anything to say before we go? Not libelous, obviously.
The next episode after that, I'll be in Hungary.
Is this just a summer road trip for you?
Yeah, I'll be doing the FIBA Under-19 World Cup with Lloyd Gardner.
Nice.
And then maybe 2 episodes after that, I'll be in Manila, the Philippines.
I promise. Do we need to do the movie draft next time? Because I feel like we've debated everything we can debate until teams actually start making some signings, and we can question whether Bristol are legit.
I still never really got to say my point about Coach of the Year, but it's...
You said your point. You voted for Gareth Murray, won, by the way.
Fair.
Big shock to everyone. Anyway, Josh, my man, anything to say before we go? Other than you're going to be jet setting, you're going to be clocking up the old miles. You're certainly not a green person, let's say. Not environmentally friendly. Just unless you're rowing there, which I'll be fucking impressed with.
My wife and me are watching a show right now about people that are walking from the United Kingdom to Singapore, and the budget they have to. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous. The budget they have to use as a plane ticket budget, what it would cost to walk across.
I need that just for shoes.
Oh, is this thing on the BBC?
Yeah. So
it's phenomenal.
Oh,
yeah, I've watched every episode so far. It's brilliant.
Wait, the old parent episode 1. They got the train from London to Paris. They're like, oh, we've used 25% of our budget already. They started walking.
First ads, Grant, Josh. Thank you for joining me. Everybody at home, thank you for listening. Until next week. Hopefully next week. I don't know. Maybe next week. We'll see. Take it easy. We'll speak to you soon. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so. We're on Twitter @BelowThePod. You can also email us hello@belowtherim.uk, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Any questions for the show? Hit them up on that as well, and hopefully we'll be back, as I said, soon.